Hey there, this is Lana Lee Wilkins, and I am just in my bedroom with my unmade bed, and I wanted to talk a little bit about what we're doing for homeschooling next year. I usually don't get into homeschooling talk that much on my podcast, but I thought YouTube might be a better avenue for that, so here we go. I'm not going to give you a long intro, let's just jump in. The ages of my kids, 16, 13, almost 14, 11, 9, 6, almost 7, and almost 4. So we've got a lot of birthdays around the summer months, and that means that I'm homeschooling 11th graders down to preschool, essentially. So what are we doing? Well, we've just joined the CMEC, that stands for Charlotte Mason Educational Center, and I'm super excited. It is teaching me basically how uninvolved I've been. I've been an involved homeschool mom, but the CMEC's trainings and resources have really shown me that there are other ways that I can be more involved. Now, do I think I did a bad job before? Do I have regrets? No, I just did it differently, and now I'm learning, I do want to do more, so there is more to be engaged in, which is great. And so some of the things that we are going to do, I'll probably upload videos about curriculum and things like that in the future. And in this video, I just want to make it short and tell you what we are doing, what we used to do, and then a couple tidbits about why that could be a whole series, okay? Because I know everyone has lots of variables as they choose the best schooling for their children. So we used to do classical conversations. I directed FE, for those of you who understand CC, the lexicon of CC. I directed Challenge A for a couple of years, which is junior high level, and I tutored 5-year-olds up through 13-year-olds, depending on the year, and I really enjoyed it. It was a great program for the time that we were in it, and now we are stepping out after 11 years of doing CC. So yes, it was a hard decision, and no, it wasn't, because there are some reasons that became really clear to me over the last few years. And I'll just boil it down to the top 3 most easy to communicate reasons. So that doesn't mean these are my main reasons, but these are the 3 most easy to communicate. Financially, it had become a problem for our family because 6 children in CC, or 5 plus daycare, ends up being a lot of money. And yes, it's cheaper than private school, but private school wasn't something we were looking into. So if you're looking at private school versus CC, well, of course CC is going to be cheaper. But for us, it's homeschooling in general versus CC. CC is more expensive, or can be much more expensive. So because of the cost, then I was required to tutor or direct. And as I entered more children into the fray, then I needed to direct the challenge level, which I was all in on being in a challenge role, because that's why I joined CC in the first place, was to do junior high school. I was super excited about it. But to make enough money, I needed to tutor in the junior high or high school years. That being said, with a full class, I still had some money to pay after that. And we did save up and everything. But I did experience the financial burden was difficult. And it would just become more and more and more as my children aged into the program. So our oldest went through Challenge 1, which meant we had 1 in Challenge 1, 1 in Challenge A, and then we had Essentials, Foundations, and then Foundations, and then daycare. So that was kind of where we left off on our last year. The second most easy to communicate reason that we switched out of CC is CC has a very organized programming, which is great, and it actually helped me learn to homeschool, which is awesome. However, it was starting to become a little bit more institutional. I know it's like a dirty word in the homeschool community, but it did feel more institutional to me. And What felt more institutional? Well, every campus is run slightly differently. I get that. And some are more, some are less. But it kind of felt like a public school setting with God kind of in the center, but not really at the forefront of every subject. So we would say God is at the center, but without the director like really honing in on God's involvement in every aspect of study, then it just wasn't really mentioned that much. So yes, the science curriculum they use is very fantastic. It's Apologia. My son is still using Apologia Science next year. But when it came to other subjects, it became a little bit more about just getting the papers done, meeting the deadlines, reading the books, and the conversation really could go in any direction at the challenge level. It's heavily dependent upon the director. So while I was happy to serve, and here's the crux of the second reason, it was difficult for me to homeschool my own children effectively because I had to study and plan lessons for this class. And so it felt a little institutionalized to me having to step out of my homeschooling role and be a director. It actually didn't help my family. It did for that one student, but my poor, sweet student who had a first year essentials year really didn't get much of me because I was so consumed with studying for this class. Now, to teach this class. Now, you can study less and still pull off directing challenge, but when you're teaching your kid to read and you're trying to teach your kid grammar for the first time and you have a toddler or a baby, you're training in the basics, and then you have a high schooler who everything is brand new, it's your oldest kid. Well, that 5 hours a week, 10 hours a week to prep for class and study and really understand the Latin and understand all of the books and think about how to engage students in games and making sure that I'm spending time with the Lord on my own and praying for your students, really caring about them became a challenge because it competed with me homeschooling my own kiddos. And I don't want that competition to be there in my heart, and it just was. And that may not be the case for other people tutoring or directing levels, but it was definitely the case for me. So I had to admit that that wasn't a good plan. And I'll get to my third reason in just a second. Because someone is at my door. Okay, normal life, See, I'm a real mom. My daughter came to the door and needed something. So the third most easy to communicate reason that we're dropping CC and doing something different is that as students level up in CC, there is the need to sequester them into different parts of the house, or I found that need anyway, because they're doing different work. Family subjects are just gone. It's like, poof, where are they? So some of the things that I valued early on in our homeschooling, like being able to do some subjects all together, it's just not possible as students level up. Yes, you can read the Bible together in your home, of course. You could do art projects and things like that, but there's not really time. Unless you are scaling at a really heavy level, which just means tweaking the program, what are you paying for at that point? So I got to the point where if I wanted to put anything else in so that we could do family stuff together, then I had to tweak the program to where I felt like they weren't really receiving the benefit of the whole program. So some families feel very comfortable tweaking and tailoring the program pretty heavily. And I know this as a director because several of the parents in my class, or the parents of the students in my class, they did tailor very heavily Some of them weren't even reading actually lots of them weren't reading the whole book to write their paper. They just got to the part where they needed to get to write the paper, and then they just stopped reading. And I wanted my kid to read the whole book, so it became a little problematic it became a little problematic in preparing for a class where the students aren't really reading the books, but the parents have the decision, of course, to choose to not make their kids read entire books. And that really is their choice, but it is hard to lead a group like that and find common ground whenever people and students haven't read and don't grasp the theme of the book because they just need to get that paper done. It was a little too focused on output of results, not the process of gaining knowledge and really asking the questions along the way. Writing that persuasive essay became the goal as opposed to lingering and enjoying the book. But a side note, that was kind of an aside, but all the reasons are so intertwined. It's really hard to just talk about one versus the other. But what I was getting at is that when we were in CC, the students had to, at home, during the home time, say my high school student and my junior high student, they didn't have any shared subjects where they were learning together. And I get that some subjects have to be that way. But there was no time for us to do family things together. So all day, my high school students in one room, all day my junior high students in another, and then the rest of us are here, but they're needing me. So I'm kind of bouncing from room to room, and it felt very disjointed at the home level and difficult to keep up with. And that may be just because I have 6 kids, and maybe CC, classical conversations, may not work effectively for a family that's our size where I wanted to be involved at the level that I did. One more time. Okay, so I'm just going to make another video if I want to talk about something else, but basically the 3 easy to communicate reasons that we're switching is financial, the logistics of kind of the institutional feel versus, more of a homeschooling feel. The third thing was really to at home time. The second one was also kind of mixed in there, the idea that I was prepping so much for the classroom time that I couldn't really focus in on homeschool time as much as I wanted to, because we had that whole day we were gone, but then we had prep time, which took out, another half day or 2 half days, which is a whole day. So 2 days gone to CC work, and then I have 3 days left, or have to go on the weekends, which we did, but I didn't want to have to do that because that's when their dad is home and want to do some fun stuff. So, not that school's not fun, okay. The third reason being the kids were separated into their different groups, and we had less family time. And sure, we could have had family time, but in order to do that, we would have had to tweak and tailor the program so extensively that I'd wonder what I was paying for. So it's better just to say goodbye, and it's been wonderful being in CC, but it's time for us to move into something else. And I used to critique and feel people that are in CC and then decide not to, they didn't really get the program, or they just weren't really real classical, they didn't understand classical education like I do, or whatever. And I had this kind of judgy feel, which I am embarrassed to even say that, but it's true. I felt a little judgy toward families who quit CC. And I thought, they're not giving their kid the best education anymore. And shame on me for thinking that. So if that is something that you tend to think about CC, but about any program, it's a mistake. It's just a mistake to think that way. Every family has to, before the Lord, choose how to educate their own kids. And CC is how we were supposed to do it. And now we're doing it a different way. So, and actually, a little carrot on the stick for another video is the CMEC, explaining a little bit more about what that is, because guess what? it is classical. So, and that calls into question, well, is CC classical? And so that's a whole other discussion. And I hope that you have a wonderful week and that this has been informative. And if you're really curious and want to know more about some of the other reasons why we have swapped out CC for different kind of homeschooling, then I'm sure I will be back on here to record a few more videos that go into greater depth, but I just want to give a quick overview. All right, have a good one.